when I started off, I was with one really well-known network marketing company, and I loved that company. It was such a great place to be. The culture was fantastic, but their growth was limited on what I could be. And I'd seen that I'd done everything that I could at that point. And an opportunity came up to take a leap, to join a newer company. And that transition was really challenging, especially in the voice, especially facing very vocal, sometimes harsh criticism from peers that I worked with and others, and people not really understanding. And it was hard, 100%, but I can do hard things. I've learned that. And it was the right fit 100% for my family. So that made it a lot easier to do.
Carol is a former nonprofit professional turned entrepreneur with a passion for inspiring women to live authentically. She was born and raised in Corpus Christi, Texas, and graduated from the University of North Texas with a bachelor in Spanish. Carol built her business and her lifestyle around her family values and 3 young children. Her family of 5 have moved to 6 cities and in 2 states in 10 years. Their most recent adventure landed them in Guam last summer, where they embraced island life, new cultures, and a new business venture. It's my pleasure to welcome Carol Whitsitt. Well, I am so excited to welcome Carol here. I am so thrilled to be able to see you. It's been ages since we've had a chance to even connect. I mean, we see each other through Facebook and everything, but it's so exciting to see the adventures you have. And so I'm really excited to hear about it, and also through the career that you've been building for yourself. So welcome. So
thank you.
Yeah. So tell me, what is something that you're celebrating today?
Well, today, it's been a busy week for us. We're about to travel. So I would say a big thing I'm celebrating today was getting my oldest to the dentist and getting through that. He did well. He doesn't like the dentist very much, and he did great. So on a personal level, celebrating that. Professionally, we're moving in a new direction with a new business venture, and I'm really excited to watch those steps unfold.
Oh, how fun. Well, that sounds exciting. Yeah, and then also the dentist, that's always nice. Such as that can't be fun.
Like, Mom win.
Yes, right, exactly. I think my favorite, when I went to the dentist, my favorite dentist was actually in Texas when I lived in Texas, and he'd knock me out even for cleaning teeth. And it's not like I was like I would freak out in dentists, but they made it just so soothing. I was just like, hello, this is great. Just wake up, my teeth is all clean and everything.
Right, it's perfect.
Exactly.
Go in, wake up, get a nap. It's like a double win.
It was beautiful. I was like, I loved it. All right. So what are 3 things that you wish you had known when you first started working?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe when we worked together, that was my first professional job after college. I had worked all through college. So I would say in my professional career, the biggest thing I wish I'd known, if I could go back and tell myself now, is that you can build your career around what you want for your life instead of the other way around. I feel like so much of our culture is here's your career, and then outside of that, you get to live. And I wish I knew then what I know now in that regard. That's the biggest thing. 2 would be making my physical, mental, and spiritual health top priority above everything. I am better at all things, my career, my life, friends, wife, mom, when those things are taken care of first.
So true. Absolutely.
Yeah. And 3rd, I would say knowing what my financial worth is and how to seek that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So many women don't do that.
No. I wish I knew. Yeah, absolutely. And as women, we're specifically, the message often is be grateful for what you receive. Now I know that my worth is more than I believed it was. And so now I can be grateful for what I receive and to ask for the adequate amount of my worth. So.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. How old were you when you first started working? I was 15.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I was 17, a senior in high school. I was a hostess because I wasn't old enough to wait tables at that point. And on the border of all places, on the border, Mexican restaurant.
Hey, did you still love the food afterwards, or?
I did. Like, I knew how to special order on menus. I guess that was my first, like, outside of babysitting. I'm the oldest of four. And so babysitting, I always had that as a side job all the time growing up. But outside of that was a hostess, and I was in the service industry for a really long time, all throughout college.
Nice. Yes. No, I folded towels at my mom's hairstyles where she was working. That was my job at 15. It worked out because I wanted to, I just, as the towels were drying, I was able to read, and I'm a big reader. So I was like, yeah, it's for me. And I'm getting paid for it. I was like, hey, why not? I loved it.
Easy.
Exactly. So, Kara, I'd love for us and those who are listening, take us through your career journey.
Oh yeah. So that's a long story. Let's see how to figure out how to make that short, right? In so many years, right? So as I mentioned before, I started off in the service industry, hosting, waiting tables, bartending, paying for college. It was really flexible. I did not have the luxury of having somebody else to pay for my college. So I also didn't want to incur large amounts of debt. So I took turns doing those things and working odd jobs, working for attorneys and other things to kind of pay for my own bills and pay for college along the way. That worked. It was flexible, but it wasn't my passion. So I simultaneously was going to school, going to college, moved around to a couple different colleges. I was one of those who took longer than most to finish college. And I was embarrassed about that for a really long time, but I finished, right? So nobody cares, really. If you're out there and you're in college, nobody really cares how long it took you.
Absolutely.
They don't.
Totally agree.
So I got my degree in Spanish because I fell in love with the language where I grew up in South Texas and the culture. It's a huge part of my life. And so I just didn't know. In college, I came across these jobs working for the city Parks and Recs department and doing those kinds of things. And what I did know, working on these different jobs, is that I wanted to have fun and that I really loved working with youth and having an impact. So I minored in recreation. For people who don't know what that is, you and I do because we worked in that field, but it's, having fun and getting paid for it basically is the recreation field. And why not? Who doesn't want to do that?
Exactly.
Like go camping and get
Six
paid.
Flags. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang out with teenagers all day. Like when they're not your teenagers, you want to hang out with them. They're fun.
They are.
So as I got out of college, my first professional job was with the YMCA in Dallas area where we lived at the time. And I was a youth development director there, working with you and some of our other colleagues that I'm still close friends with. And I loved that job. It really was a lot of fun. It was very hands-on. I was definitely the right person for that because there wasn't a lot of funding given for that. And people would often tell you no. And for me, no's like, oh, okay, find another way around it. Got it. And so that's just what I did. That was a skill set somewhere in my life I learned. And after that, my husband and I have moved many, many times, and we were trying to get pregnant. And we moved in a place that I needed some fertility treatments. And the place was far away. So I decided to take a pause from working for some years. Which was challenging for me. I have a lot going on up here at all times. And so it needs to be harnessed or I'm not that pleasant. I'm not very fun when I'm bored. So after my first son was born, we moved back. Well, after all three of my kids were born in Arizona, we moved back to Texas. And I just knew I couldn't. Being a stay-at-home mom was a giant blessing that I'm still grateful for. And it wasn't enough to fill my bucket. And I had a lot of shame around that for a long time because I felt like there was this, well, you are so lucky that you get to do this. You should be so appreciative. And I was, and I had a lot up here that I wasn't a good mom or wife if I wasn't using these other parts of me. But I needed a job where I could be home with my kids. My husband's job was crazy. I needed flexibility. I needed my own hours. So I joined a network marketing company. And that's where I could make my own hours. That's where my beginning of entrepreneurship began. And it's kind of evolved from there. I've changed companies. I basically am trying to work it, like many of us, where I work as little as possible and still get paid really well. Like that's the ultimate goal, right?
Right.
So we're starting to move more towards real estate. And so, passive income and the flexibility in our family's lifestyle is really important. So being an entrepreneur, I found, is the best fit for me because I can take that career with me everywhere I move. Mm-hmm. And if I have a sick kid, I can be 100% there with them. Or if I want to go to the beach for the day because that's what I need, I can do that. I don't have to ask somebody for permission.
Isn't that great? I love that.
I love it.
I love that. So what would you say has been, I guess maybe your most challenging through all this that you've done throughout your career?
I would say when I started off, I was with one really well-known network marketing company, and I loved that company. It was such a great place to be. The culture was fantastic, but their growth was limited on what I could be. And I'd seen that I'd done everything that I could at that point. And an opportunity came up to take a leap, to join a newer company. And that transition was really challenging, especially in the voice, especially facing very vocal, sometimes harsh criticism from peers that I worked with and others, and people not really understanding. And it was hard, 100%, but I can do hard things. I've learned that. And it was the right fit 100% for my family. So that made it a lot easier to do.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what would you say has been something that you're really proud of?
Professionally, I would say building my career around my life. That's the thing I'm the most proud of, for sure. If you're looking for a specific situation, but yeah, I would say that I didn't want my career to be my life. I wanted it to be the other way around.
I love that. And that actually really is a great transition. We find that in the work that we do, in the work that I do, I help women find clarity in what they do, and they're trying to figure out when they're in the crossroad of their career. But there's confusion between career. Career is what you make money from. Right. Then there's a difference between vocation. Vocation is using your unique, brilliant gifts, and then the higher purpose, which is how you it is the meaningful reason for life. And all of that women tend to get confused about, and there's a lot of anxiety over it. So for you, what would you consider your vocation to be?
My vocation definitely is sharing my family's journey, and personally my own story and my own evolution, personally and professionally, over time, in a way that's authentic, vulnerable, messy, and comical. Like for me, laughter is everything. And in hopes that has an impact on others, that it inspires others to do that for themselves in whatever that looks like.
And how did you determine your vocation? Like, did it just come to you one day, or was that when you were younger? How did you determine what it would be?
I've always had a way with words since I was younger. I wrote poetry and just always really loved writing. Most of my business is online, primarily on social media. So two of my loves are photography and using words and telling stories. So those things just kind of naturally happened. As I was building my online business, I just found that I was naturally good at it. When other people were taking classes to learn how to do it, I was like, I don't understand. Wait, what word? You just tell your story. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I just found out I was good at it. I got really lucky in that department, and showing people the world through photos is something I personally enjoy. So it's something that I really enjoy sharing with others.
It is. And I love seeing your images of your children, and it feels like we're there when I see some of those pictures.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's the intention.
It's beautiful. So all of us have what I call our special fairy dust, our individualism. How do you express your individualism in whatever you do?
This is a really good question because I used to be terrible at this, like awful. I was really bad at showing up as I am. This is something that I've had to do a lot of work on myself, a lot of reflection to be accepting of who I am. And that probably looks different than what others might expect from me, and being okay with that. That has taken years of evolution. So now everything I do, like my business, like I mentioned, is online on social media. Everything I write is written the way I speak. When I reach out to customers, when I talk to my team members, it's exactly in the way that I speak. It's not scripted. It's not glossed over and filtered down. This is who I am. Online and offline, I'm the exact same person. And I've also learned to only say yes to things that are a hell yes. If it's not all in yes, then it's a no. And that's learning to say no has been a challenge, but it has made life so much sweeter and so much better. And then the other part was the photos that you mentioned. I'm so glad you touched on that, because the photos that I take are of my life, are of my family, in my family. They're not curated. I'm not saying, hey, let's go do this and take these photo shoot photos. They're actually happening in my life. And they're from the viewpoint, even down to the colors I use in editing, of how I see the world. So there isn't a difference. You can't untangle me from my work at this point.
That's beautiful. Well, you're doing a fabulous job, because it is. It is, as I mentioned earlier, it feels like we're there with you when those pictures in. It's lovely. So I touched on higher purpose, and again, higher purpose is that meaningful reason to live, and that money is not part of the equation. Do you believe it's important to have a higher purpose to have a successful career? Then I'll ask a couple of questions after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe everybody has a higher purpose. For a long time, I believed that it was tied to my career. Now I believe that it's much bigger than that. That if I'm lucky, my career will be part of that. And I believe in some ways it is. But my higher purpose, to be successful in your career, I think believing that you have a higher purpose and being open to maybe that being different than you originally thought is important, because that was very true for me. But I think knowing what it is isn't as important to success. I think you can get there and have success along the way.
Yeah, I would have to agree too. So would you say you have a higher purpose? And if so, what is it? And how did you find it? And if not, has it impacted you?
Yeah, I 100% have a higher purpose. As I mentioned, I thought it was related to my career. It isn't. It's bigger. I 100% believe that my higher purpose is doing the work on myself from the inside out, and healing generational hurts and generational patterns, and healing that within myself and my own family, and seeing the impact that has on my family of 5 and even for generations to come.
Right. And that's probably, it's going to impact positive the way that your children grow up and understand better for themselves. And so you're developing these foundations for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what are some inner blocks, that negative talk that comes to all of us, that hold you or has held you back?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say the primary one is that my value and my worth are tied to my ability to do things, usually do all things for all people. And that just spreads me too thin. It really does. And it doesn't allow me to use my purpose and my power in a focused way. And that has held me back. It's something I'm actively working on a day-to-day life. And as I mentioned, as I learn to say no to things, the yeses get bigger and brighter and so much more beautiful.
I love that. And part of you earlier when we were talking, you mentioned knowing your worth. So at one point, was that something that you had inner talk about that and that you had to also work through?
Yeah, 100%. you follow me on social media, so you know that I'm very open about the fact that I'm in counseling, and I'm very open about mental health and things that have to do with that, because I believe there's a giant stigma around that. A lot of that work has come from being in counseling consistently for a long time. The other part of it is just getting quiet and still with myself. I don't know if that comes with age, if that comes with experience, or I think also it partially has been intentional that I said, this version of me isn't quite there yet. What does that look like? I'm constantly reading and listening to podcasts on personal growth. And I definitely think that those things have impacted that as well.
Yeah, awesome. So what is something that you do when you're stressed or overwhelmed?
Well, I live on a tropical island in the middle of nowhere.
I love that.
So totally on purpose. So the number one thing I do if I really need a reset is the beach is 10 to 15 minutes away at all times. So my favorite thing to do is, if you haven't seen Guam beaches, look up the pictures. It's just beautiful turquoise blue. So I like to get out there and just literally lay in the ocean and float. That completely resets me. If I need something more immediate, or I can't really go escape to the beach for a little bit, we have a small home gym. I will do a nice big workout with lots of loud music and exercising, really hard workout, or I meditate, or both. Sometimes I need both.
Sometimes I need it. Yes.
All
yes. Yes. Well, have we mentioned the age group of your kids? Let's mention that so people understand where you are.
I'm in that season of life, which I actually is easier than the previous season. My children are 5, 7, and 8. Yes. So we're in this season of life, which is beautiful, but it's easier than the previous season, but it's hands-on.
Yes, it is still very hands-on. Yes. Yeah. And we were like trying to figure out when we were going to meet, because, she has to go pick up ballet, right, dance, and I'm at middle of the night over here. We made it work.
Yes, always make it work. Yeah,
exactly. All right. So, what is something that you were told that you believed and that it had a profound impact on you, but it was not true?
Yeah. So other than the value being tied to the ability to do, I would say value, especially in my career, to my physical appearance and what that looks like, as a career of where you take a lot of photos. And even before that, even before when I worked in nonprofits, that as a woman, it's just like this really sometimes not so subtle, but subtle thing that your shape and your size is connected to your professional success, which is bizarre to me.
Right.
So bizarre to me. And it's one of the things I love about Guam is that there's women of every shape and size and color, and they embrace how they look at the beach or in life. And there isn't this belief that their success or ability is connected to that. I know now that that's baloney. It's not true. I see women, and we see it more now in mainstream media, that women who are successful who look different than what I've been told my whole life that success looks like. And that's been very empowering. And it's something intentional I do, having a daughter in my house, that I make a decision to show up as I am and to be thankful for my body the way that it is in front of her, even on the days where it's not easy to do that.
That's great. Because they see us as that role model, the first immediate role model before they see anything else. And if we are being very hard on ourselves, it's they're listening, and we sometimes have to remember that. We have to remember that. Yeah,
absolutely.
So what is something that you deeply yearn for, that you are still on the journey to attain?
Professionally or personally?
Either.
I would say that probably falls under both categories. Growing up, I grew up in Corpus on the beach. And so I always was the kid who ran towards the seaweed to take it apart to see what was in it. So I've always been obsessed with the ocean. That's my first love. And so now that we live in Guam, environmentalism, environmental education, and conservation is something I'm so passionate about, especially around the ocean, specifically sharks and manta rays. It was the first thing I wanted to study in college, and I went a different direction. And I feel like my higher power has moved me to this place on this world for a very specific reason. And I'm taking steps towards that, but I'm really excited to see how that unfolds.
Oh, that's exciting to hear. I'll look forward to seeing that journey.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, as you know, I worked with women. I do work with mostly women who are on that crossroad. As I mentioned before, they're on determining, maybe they're lost, hating what they're doing, or maybe they're going back to work and not knowing where they're going to go, or they just want to do something new. They don't know what it is, but they just want to do something new. What advice would you give to someone who is feeling lost in their career?
Yeah, I've been there. I have been there so very much. So can just say what worked for me is getting still, getting quiet, and really getting to know what I truly, truly love, what lights me up, what sets me on fire, the thing I can't stop talking about, whatever that is, getting to know it. And, in reality, we have to be honest, as oftentimes as women, we're usually the primary caregiver. If there is another partner, they may or may not be helping. We might sometimes. I'm very lucky to be married and my partner is very involved. But I have many friends who that's not the case. Either their partner is gone for work a ton, or they don't have one. And so being realistic about your passion and also what your family needs are. I needed a career that was flexible and could move with me. So finding out what your needs are and your passion, and finding the place that they come together and meet, and being unflinching about that pursuit.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I love that. Beautiful. So, what are you now most excited about your future right now?
Personally, my trip home. We have been in Guam for a year. So going home to see our family is coming up really soon. And I'm very excited about that. Professionally, as I mentioned, we're moving towards real estate, and I'm moving towards a new business venture. We're in the process of getting our business license here in Guam so that we can rent out a property that is on our property, on our house, in our yard, exciting. I guess. We have a beautiful yard. And so we're kind of moving that direction and seeing what that brings us and what the whole future holds for us in that department.
That is exciting. And you're still making it work in the environment that you're in. And I love that you're saying it's going to be in your backyard, so you're not having to travel too far, even though.
No, absolutely not. Let's make it as simple as possible. If I can do my work in my PJs, I'm a happy girl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Well, I enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your journey, to share advice, to share just your perception of what's been going on with you, and then to share again ideas that people would help with that when they are in a crossroad. So
thank you so much. Thanks for letting me be a part of this. This is a ton of fun, and it's wonderful to see you and connect with you again.
Absolutely. I love it. So we will, of course, still see each other on social media. I'm always there. But again, thank you so much.